welcome back to another edition of Jax Rewind. I'm Jeannie Blaylock. Just a bit of a reminder of what the show is all about. I'm going to take you through the last week of news here on the First Coast, day by day and headline by headline. The biggest headline in the world this week, the first American Pope. We'll get you some local reaction coming up to that in just a bit. Also, a bear in downtown St. Augustine. How did it get there and what's happened to it? That's coming up as well. But first, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office is now investigating its 8th officer-involved shooting of 2025. Two of those shootings took place in the span of 48 hours just last weekend. One happened last Friday night on the west side on Ricker Road, and you can see the video from that scene on the left side of your screen. The other Sunday morning on the west side, that incident on the right side of your screen. So according to JSO's transparency page, there have been 8 officer-involved shootings so far this year, and there were 8 total in all of 2024. So here's Riley Phillips with more for you.
According to JSO's online transparency page, there have been 8 officer-involved shootings so far for 2025. There were 8 total officer-involved shootings for the entire year of 2024. I spoke with our crime and safety analyst today, who says these numbers speaks to the volatility of the scenes these officers are responding to. First Coast News crime and safety analyst Mark Bachman watching surveillance video from Sunday's officer-involved shooting.
He's not even trying to get out of the way there.
The video captures the moment 40-year-old Michael Lee Wright was shot by an officer in the Normandy Estates mobile home park. JSO says Wright's girlfriend asked an officer to escort her home so she could gather her things after Wright tried to stop her from leaving earlier that day. The surveillance video shows Wright hitting the officer's patrol vehicle, then following the officer as he is backing up. The video then captures the officer hitting Wright with his vehicle.
I mean, this was not all non-lethal until he decides to take the run at the officer with a weapon, it appears like.
Wright can then be seen charging at the officer while possibly holding an object in his hand. JSO says a pair of scissors was found under the patrol car. We stopped the video before the officer shoots Wright.
It's clear he kind of sees him with this object. He gives the verbal commands that tells him to drop it, and he doesn't comply, and then he charges at the officer.
This incident marks the 8th officer-involved shooting of 2025, which matches the total number of officer-involved shootings for the entire year of 2024. However, Bachman does not consider these numbers to be alarming.
You can go to the most, serene or what it might be, the most general information call, and it can heighten and turn into a deadly force within seconds sometimes. It's just why officers have to be prepared to deal with that.
All 8 incidents are now under investigation and pending review. All 8 officer-involved shootings in 2024 are also still under review. Bachman says these types of investigations take time.
The fact that they're not being released yet doesn't mean they're not being transparent. You have 3 investigations, independent investigations. They all have to be concluded before the sheriff's going to come back out and give a statement on what they did, how it played out, whether it was a justified shooting, whether it wasn't.
I also asked Bachman if a taser could have been used in this specific incident. He said it's difficult to make that determination, especially if the officer felt like his life or others were in danger. He also said tasers don't always neutralize a suspect. He then added the body-worn camera from the officer will help fill in some of the gaps here in this incident. On the west side, Riley Phillips, First Coast News, on your side.
Thank you, Riley. A Jacksonville private school teacher is out of the classroom and facing charges. She was arrested last week. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office arrested 58-year-old Cyrena Hogan on Wednesday on 1 count of child abuse without great bodily harm. She was a teacher at Bay Meadows Christian Academy and Preschool, according to the school when First Coast News contacted them. A heavily redacted arrest report indicates that a victim sustained injuries. JSO and the Department of Children and Families are investigating. Parents were notified the night before Hogan's arrest when DCF began speaking to children in the classroom. A formal letter was sent home with students on Thursday to notify parents that Hogan would not be returning to the classroom, according to a spokesman for the school. An e-bike crash that critically injured a 12-year-old in Julington Creek sparked safety talks at this week's County Commission meeting. A draft ordinance would ban careless riding and limit e-bike speed on St. Johns County beaches. One commissioner says existing helmet laws and speed laws are being ignored. Another says enforcement and education are key to keeping children safe. The Sheriff's Office has already increased patrols and issued safety reminders to parents. Parents of St. Johns County students received a letter from the St. Johns County Sheriff's Office urging them and also guardians to talk about how to ride e-bikes safely. And here is the bear, an unexpected tourist roaming through the streets of St. Augustine. Everybody was talking about this. It's all caught on camera, too. This is surveillance video showing that black bear crossing a street. The St. Augustine Police Department also sharing this video of the bear showing some impressive acrobatics. Did you see that going over the wall there, hopping right over a fence? Police and the Florida Wildlife Conservation Commission monitored the bear, and we're told the bear eventually made its way out of the area, out of downtown St. Augustine. And our Sydney Deshawn has reaction to the bear sighting.
When you think of St. Augustine, you expect tourists and trolleys, but this morning, the city got a special visitor.
We've had an interesting day here at the Pennypack House. Although this is one of the oldest houses in the city, I can't say with any confidence that I know of any story that this has ever happened.
Brooke gasped waking up to a flood of messages, not from history buffs, but from people spotting a black bear, taking the scenic route through downtown. And here at the Women's Exchange, or the Pena Peck House on St. George Street.
We believe this is the tree that he climbed. He enjoyed our grounds. Of course, all guests are always welcome here at the Pennypack House. Some maybe different hours than others.
You can see the bear posing in this tree and hopping this fence on St. George Street early Tuesday morning.
I think it's an honor that he paid this house a visit of all places.
And the bear didn't stop there, even crashing the preschool's water day at Trinity Parish.
The bear was probably looking for his necessities.
And it's possible the heavy police presence may have been intimidating. City of St. Augustine Beach Mayor Dylan Rumrell says the bear wasn't looking for trouble, just a little adventure.
It's just another tourist in St. Augustine. So I'm just thankful he didn't swim across the intercoastal and end up in my jurisdiction.
Leah Yon lives in Nocatee and says she believes Florida wildlife is showing up more in their neighborhood.
I was coming home and got on the phone with my wife, who's Captain Sandy from Below Deck Med, and I go, oh my gosh, I swear that's a bear in our backyard. She's like, what? And I go, yeah, no, he's so big and he's like black. I'm like, that's either the biggest armadillo or possum I've ever seen, or that's a bear.
And she's also had big alligators outside.
It's like going out in Africa.
Back in St. Augustine, neighbors are just thankful no one was hurt, and the bear there is safe and sound.
Officer Ortega and his team, we could not be more grateful for everything that you do for us all the time.
My goodness, thank you, Sydney. Staying in St. Augustine now, a nationwide child sex abuse crackdown includes the arrest of a St. Augustine woman. U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel say so-called Operation Restore Justice culminated in 205 arrests during a 5-day surge. 41-year-old Brittany Firth was arrested on charges of producing, distributing, and receiving child sex abuse material. The St. Johns County Sheriff's Office found her based on a tip from a company called Synchronos Technology. The tip said a user on the messaging platform Discord was sending child sex abuse material. Now, if convicted, she faces between 15 and 70 years in federal prison. A years-long court case against a pastor accused of sexually abusing a child came to a close this week on the First Coast. The former pastor of the Jacksonville Assembly of the Body of Christ pleaded guilty to a child abuse charge and was sentenced to 5 years of probation. Paul Dial faced 2 capital sexual battery charges, but the state attorney's office dropped those charges. In a disposition, the state said the victim had always been cooperative, but being a part of this case caused, quote, extreme stress and emotional difficulty. The victim did give the judge an impact statement, which a friend read in court on Thursday.
The scars from performance stayed with me. I've experienced it in relationships I've struggled through, the life choices I've bounced back from, and everything in between.
The judge ordered that Dial cannot have any contact with the victim's family, or any unsupervised contact with any minors. Major changes this week for travelers across the country as Real ID compliant forms of identification are now needed at airports. Certain standards, driver's licenses and other IDs, will no longer meet federal standards for people seeking to fly within the United States. A Real ID is a security-enhanced, state-issued driver's license, learner's permit, or non-driver identification card, and it's offered by all 50 states. TSA officials say Real ID compliance is a law. It passed 20 years ago, and it focused on identity and document integrity, and it does not, by the way, apply to minors.
Yeah, so for minors, it does not apply to minors, so anyone over the age of 18 this applies to. And again, sufficient alternatives include a military ID card, a passport, a trusted traveler card like a global entry card, for example. So all those things are sufficient.
So we've been talking about this a lot, but if you still have questions, does my card make it? There it is on the screen. Real ID cards are marked with a star on the top right corner. The star is usually black or gold, and it may vary depending on the state. Well, next time you're at the beach, you can see flashing lights and hear a siren, but there's no reason for panic. It's all for our safety. Atlantic Beach announced it's installing more than lightning protection systems at Beach's Town Center and Jack Russell Park. The detectors will set off a 15-second siren with a flashing light to let beachgoers know to take cover. After the lightning conditions have passed, they'll sound 3 horns and the light will stop. The police chief says they'll only be on from 8 in the morning to 9 at night for the sake of folks who live near them.
There are plenty of times we've had lightning strikes on the beach if you have injured people. So if we can make a difference and help somebody avoid that, help their family not have to go through that, we'd rather do that than inconvenience a few folks with sirens throughout the summer.
And the new lightning detectors were turned on Friday. Well, for the first time in the nearly 2,000-year history of the Catholic Church, we have an American Pope. Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost took the name of Leo XIV. Here's a look where on Thursday the new Pope was met with cheers as he spoke to the crowd for the very first time.
God loves everyone. Evil will not prevail. We are all in the hands of God.
And what a huge crowd, more than 150,000 people spilling out of St. Peter's Square and into the streets of Rome. With 1.4 billion members, the Catholic religion is considered the world's largest Christian denomination. And the world celebrating the election of Pope, including the Empire State Building you see right there, the New York City skyline, aglow with white and gold. Those are the primary papal colors. Back here on the First Coast, Jacksonville Mayor Donna Deegan posting about the new Pope. She says, as a lifelong Catholic herself, it is profoundly touching to see an American chosen to lead the church for the first time. The mayor says she is hopeful to hear his message of building bridges with people of all faiths. And the announcement of a pope swept through downtown St. Augustine, a city founded on the Catholic faith. Our Cindy Deshawn was in St. Augustine at the historic Cathedral Basilica, the oldest Catholic parish in the entire United States, for the community's reaction.
A historic day across America.
I am so thankful the Holy Spirit works in marvelous ways.
And here in St. Augustine.
It's amazing to be in St. Augustine in front of the great Catholic cathedral on the night that Pope Leo, is it the 14th, has been inaugurated as the next pope.
Catholics celebrating the first American ever to lead the Catholic Church.
He's American!
Yes!
A surprise for many, like Sister Stephanie Flynn with the Sisters of St. Joseph.
I'm stunned. But he's an American and a South American at the same time. He represents half the world. It's wonderful.
The 69-year-old Augustinian priest is from Chicago and spent more than a decade ministering in Peru before rising to leadership in the Vatican.
Working with very primitive people in the most backward kind of villages and circumstances.
The new pope greeting the world from this balcony, offering a message of peace and unity.
This is the peace of the risen Christ. A peace that is disarming and humble and persevering. It comes from God. God who loves all of us without any limits and conditions.
As bells ring out and celebrations continue, Catholics all over the nation are hopeful about his message and what's to come.
I hope he takes that servanthood, which we've been so lacking. We've lacked humility, and we want to bring that into our daily lives and serve one another.
So the new pope was chosen on the second day of the conclave, where 133 cardinals took part in the Sistine Chapel. Coming up, an update to an Ask Anthony story about the anti-bride wedding planner, which has generated the most clicks on our website this week. And it's been 4 years since Tristan Bailey, a St. Johns County teen, was viciously murdered by a classmate. Our Heather Crawford sits down with her father, Forrest Bailey, for a candid interview. We'll be right back. Friday marked 4 years since the St. Johns County cheerleader was brutally murdered by a classmate. It was Mother's Day 2021 when Tristan Bailey was stabbed to death in the woods by a 14-year-old. She was just 13. Since her death, her family has launched the Tristan Bailey Foundation to help raise awareness about the dangers of social media, help advocate for victims, and sponsor self-defense classes. Our Heather Crawford sat down with Tristan's father, Forrest Bailey, and had a very candid conversation about her life, her death, and carrying on her legacy.
Early on, we knew we had to do something. Just with Tristan's light and her spirit, we wanted to do something. And immediately, we had a number of people connect with us, and they started doing things even before we were prepared to do things. So there was a number of cheer programs that reached out, and they started creating awards for somebody in their gym or on their team that was similar to Tristan. You know, always working, always willing to support their teammates, telling people you got this on the bad days and picking them up. And that kind of started, and that was our focus from the beginning, is really on character. And so that was our first pillar. We're doing some amazing things with that coming up this year.
And you can watch Heather's full interview with Forrest Bailey on demand this weekend on First Coast News Plus. An update now on Jacksonville wedding planner and florist accused of taking thousands from couples and not delivering what they paid for on their big day.
What would be the perfect resolution for you in this situation?
I don't even want an apology from her because I feel like it would be fake. I would just like our money back.
1 week ago, Anthony Austin shared Alyssa Yates' story. She and her wife paid more than $3,500 to Brittany McGulkin, who ran a Jacksonville business called The Anti-Bride. But with just months to go, only a photographer had been booked despite a separate $1,300 deposit for a DJ. In September, they asked for a refund and received nothing. However, that changed last week after Anthony called McGulkin. She met Yates at the bank and handed over the money. But the story doesn't end there. His inbox has been filled with messages from more brides who are telling him the same thing happened to them.
How would you describe your interaction with her when you saw her on Friday at the bank?
She walked in, handed me an envelope, didn't say anything to me. I said thank you. She went, and then walked out.
After nearly 8 months, Alyssa Yates and her wife Rachel have the money they've been waiting for after they say their dream wedding nearly became a nightmare.
I'm just relieved it's over, but I'm saddened to hear from other people that have reached out to me that this has happened to them as well.
The check cleared, Yates is done, but for others, the story is far from over.
I think the first red flag was when she sent me somebody else's invoice because she had the same first name as me with all of her personal information on it.
Sydney Robertson paid McColgan nearly $7,000. She says her April wedding was littered with broken promises, from fake dying candles and missing florals to printer paper signs.
She had promised me this seating chart that was going to be 6 feet by 8 feet on this main wall in hand calligraphy, and it was one singular podium with literal Xerox printer paper down to the ground.
Robertson says McColgan agreed to a $2,500 refund, and while she did send the money, Robertson says the funds vanished from her bank account and didn't appear to clear with the bank. Now she's fighting through her bank for a chargeback.
I told her that I did that. I was just honest with her. I was like, let's just make this easy. I have proof of you admitting that you owe me the money. I have all the photos of things that didn't match up to what you promised me.
Bailey Talby says she spent nearly $17,000 with McColgan. Her dream Bridgerton-inspired garden party in June didn't turn out as expected.
Lots and lots of flowers just didn't show up. They were never there.
Talby says McColgan was noticeably absent and barely communicated during the planning process.
Most of my vendors, I actually ended up doing myself because she never contacted them. So I feel like I was my own planner. Hiring her was insanely pointless because you're doing it all yourself once you get her anyways.
Talby says McColgan gave her a $682 refund out of the $17,000 she paid.
And I confronted her about all of this, and she just said, we used your entire budget on your flowers, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, you didn't, because you actually never purchased any of those flowers. You simply just repurposed what was at the ceremony.
Frustrating. All right, thank you, Anthony. Coming up after the break, Shaquille O'Neal in Jacksonville. I'll tell you where he's DJing this weekend. Fans will get another chance to see Travis Hunter and his rookie peers Saturday at the Miller Electric Center at Jags rookie minicamp. These rounds of rookie practices are the first of the Liam Cohen era. Our First Coast News sports team is sure to keep you updated on this online and on air throughout this weekend. Also happening this weekend, NBA Hall of Famer Shaquille O'Neal will be in town. At a Decca Live, DJ Diesel will be getting the party going Saturday night at 9 o'clock. You got to be 18 or older to go. Tickets are on sale right now for $60 on Decca Live's website. And on Sunday, we all know it's Mother's Day, and you could take a trip to the wild side if you want. Caddyshack Ranch Wildlife Sanctuary is letting moms get in for free with another paid ticket on Mom's Day. You can head over there from 1 to 3 in the afternoon. Tickets just $15. And remember, Mom gets in free. Or if you want to do this, you can take your mom out to the ballpark to see the Jumbo Shrimp. They are home this weekend. On Saturday, they will be there at the Jumbo Shrimp Stadium. There's going to be like a strawberry beach hat giveaway and fireworks. First pitch for Saturday's game is 6:35. I said strawberry, but I think it's a straw hat giveaway. Then on Sunday, it is Family Fun Day at the ballpark. First pitch for Sunday is 3:05 p.m. And don't forget, it is a weather impact alert weekend, so keep your First Coast News app handy for weather alerts all weekend long. Thank you so much for joining us for another First Coast News Plus exclusive Jax Rewind. Hope you and your loved ones have a fantastic weekend and an extra special Mother's Day. See you next week.